It was a cold evening when Daniel stepped off the bus near the old city bridge. The sky was gray and the wind cut through his thin jacket. He had just moved to the city a few weeks ago, and everything still felt unfamiliar. The streets were crowded, yet he felt completely alone. His job interview earlier that day had not gone well, and the little money he had left was barely enough for food. As he stood there watching people rush past him, Daniel wondered how his life had taken such a difficult turn so quickly. Daniel walked slowly toward the bridge, lost in his thoughts. He remembered his hometown where neighbors knew each other by name and kindness was common. In this city, people seemed busy and distant. No one made eye contact, no one smiled. He sat down on a bench near the bridge, rubbing his hands together to stay warm. His stomach growled, reminding him that he had not eaten since morning. He checked his wallet and sighed. There was almost nothing left. As Daniel sat there, he noticed an elderly woman struggling to carry 2 heavy grocery bags. She walked carefully, step by step, but it was clear the bags were too heavy for her. Many people passed by her without stopping. Daniel hesitated for a moment. He was tired, hungry, and worried about his own problems. Still, something inside him pushed him to stand up. He walked over and gently asked if she needed help. The woman looked surprised, then smiled warmly. She thanked Daniel and handed him one of the bags. Together, they walked slowly toward her apartment building nearby. Along the way, she told him her name was Mrs. Harris and that she lived alone since her husband had passed away many years ago. Daniel listened quietly, feeling a strange comfort in the simple conversation. For a brief moment, his worries seemed lighter. When they reached her building, Mrs. Harris insisted that Daniel come inside for a cup of tea. At first, he refused politely, not wanting to bother her. But she smiled and said, kindness should never be refused. Inside her small apartment, the warmth wrapped around Daniel like a blanket. The walls were covered with old photographs, memories of a life full of love and experiences. Mrs. Harris poured tea and offered him some homemade bread. As Daniel ate, he realized how hungry he truly was. Mrs. Harris watched him carefully, her eyes filled with kindness rather than judgment. She asked him about his life, and slowly he told her everything: his move to the city, the failed interview, and his fear of not knowing what would come next. She listened patiently, nodding from time to time. When he finished, she placed her hand gently on his and told him that hard times never last forever. Before Daniel left, Mrs. Harris handed him a small envelope. He tried to refuse, but she insisted. One day, when you are able, she said softly, pass this kindness to someone else. Daniel thanked her deeply and stepped back into the cold night. As he walked away, he felt something he had not felt in weeks: hope. The next morning, Daniel woke up feeling different. The city still looked the same, but his heart felt lighter. He used the money from the envelope to buy breakfast and print more copies of his resume. Later that day, he walked into a small cafe and asked if they were hiring. The owner glanced at his resume and told him to start the next day. It was not his dream job, but it was a beginning. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel worked hard at the cafe. He greeted customers with a smile, remembering Mrs. Harris's kindness. One evening, a young man entered the cafe looking exhausted and nervous. He ordered coffee but realized he had forgotten his wallet. The embarrassment on his face reminded Daniel of himself. Without hesitation, Daniel paid for the coffee. The young man thanked him repeatedly, surprised by the gesture. Daniel simply smiled and said, "Someone once helped me when I needed it most." The young man nodded, clearly moved. In that moment, Daniel understood what Mrs. Harris meant. Kindness was not about money. It was about seeing another human being and choosing to care. Months later, Daniel's life improved steadily. He saved money, found a better job, and even moved into a small apartment. But he never forgot that cold evening near the bridge. Sometimes he visited Mrs. Harris, bringing groceries or just sitting with her and listening to her stories. Their bond grew stronger with each visit, reminding him that family could be found in unexpected places. One rainy afternoon, Daniel noticed a woman crying at the bus stop. People walked past her without stopping, just like before. Daniel approached her gently and asked if she was okay. She told him she had lost her job and had no idea how she would pay rent. Daniel listened, offering comfort and advice. He gave her the contact of his cafe owner and told her to apply there. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of gratitude. That night, Daniel realized something important. Life was still unpredictable and challenges would always come. But kindness had the power to change moments, days, and even lives. It did not require wealth or status, only the willingness to care. He understood that the smallest act of kindness could create a chain reaction far beyond what anyone could see. Years passed, and Daniel eventually started his own small business. On the opening day, Mrs. Harris stood proudly beside him, smiling like a grandmother watching her grandson succeed. Daniel thanked her publicly, telling everyone how her kindness had changed his life. Many people in the room wiped tears from their eyes, touched by the simple truth of his story. As Daniel looked around, he saw faces filled with hope. He knew that every person carried invisible burdens, just as he once had. From that day on, he promised himself never to ignore someone in need. He understood that strangers were simply friends he had not met yet, and kindness was the language everyone understood. And so, the kindness of a stranger became the foundation of a new life. It taught Daniel that even in the coldest moments, warmth could be found. All it took was one person willing to stop, listen, and care. That single act of kindness traveled from one heart to another, proving that goodness still existed in the world, quietly changing lives every single day.